Welcome back to the Bible Stories. You may notice there are no ads on this video because YouTube has demonetized our channel. To support us, you can scan the first QR code to join the Bible Stories podcast app, where you can listen offline and access exclusive episodes. Or, if you simply want to give, you can scan the second QR code to donate directly. Thank you for helping us keep these Bible stories going. Before the earth had a shape, Jesus was there with God, sharing a life and a love that had no beginning. When the Apostle John sat down to write about Jesus, he did not start with the manger. He reached back before creation itself, and he chose a strange and beautiful title for Jesus. He called him the Word. Listen to how his gospel opens. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John chapter 1, verse 1. Notice what John does not say. He does not say the Word came into being in the beginning. He says that when the beginning happened, the Word already was. Whatever moment you point to as the start of everything, Jesus was already there before it, fully alive, fully God, already at the Father's side. Why did John call him the Word? Because a word is how you reveal what is inside you. Your thoughts are hidden until you speak them, and Jesus is how God speaks himself into the open. He is the way the invisible God makes himself known. When God wanted to say who he really is, he did not send a message. He sent his Son. And this Word was not only with God. John says, the Word was God. This is not a lesser being, a helper, or a creature that God made first and used to make everything else. This is God himself, one with the Father, sharing the same life from all eternity. Look closely at that little phrase, with God. It tells us that before the world existed, Jesus was not alone in some cold and empty silence. He was with someone. There was closeness. There was a face turned toward him and a voice that loved him. When we try to imagine eternity past, we tend to picture blank space and nothing else. But the truth is warmer than that. Before there was a world, there was fellowship. There was a father and a son who had never been apart, who had never had a moment of distance between them. Jesus did not step out of loneliness to make us. He stepped out of love, and he made us to bring us into it. Then John writes, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us." John chapter 1, verse 14. The one who had no beginning took on a body that could grow tired. The one who spoke galaxies into existence learned to speak his first words as a child in a small town. The eternal Word wrapped himself in skin and bone and came to live on the street where we live. Think about the size of that. The oldest being in existence, the one who was there before there was a there, came close enough to be held. He did not stay far away and shout instructions from heaven. He came near. He came as one of us, and he did it because the people he made were worth coming for. We often imagine that before creation there was only emptiness, a cold, silent nothing. But that is not the picture the Bible gives us. Before there was a world, there was already love. There was a father and there was a son, and between them flowed a love so full and so old that it had never once been interrupted. We know this because of something Jesus prayed on the last night of his life. In just a few hours, he would be arrested. Soon after, he would be beaten and nailed to a cross. He knew all of it was coming. And in that heavy moment, he lifted his eyes to heaven and prayed a prayer no ordinary man could ever pray. He said, "And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began." John chapter 17, verse 5. Notice what he is really saying. Jesus was not asking for a glory he hoped to earn. He was asking to return to a glory he already owned before the world began. He was remembering out loud a life he had lived with the Father before there was a single day on the calendar of time. No prophet ever prayed like this. Moses never asked to be restored to a place he held before the universe. David never longed for a throne he sat on before creation. Only someone who was truly there, awake and present with the Father in eternity, could pray those words and mean them. But he did not stop there. In the same prayer, he said something that reaches all the way down to you. He said, "The glory you have given me, because you loved me before the creation of the world." John chapter 17, verse 24. The Father loved the Son before the creation of the world. Love did not start when the world began. Love was already there, older than the light. And that changes how we understand everything that comes after. When this same Jesus later gave himself for us, he was not learning how to love for the first time. He was doing on a cross what he had been doing forever. He was loving. This is why you can trust what happened at the cross. It was not a sudden change of heart in God, a moment when a distant and angry ruler was finally talked into being kind. The love poured out. There was the same love that had been flowing between the Father and the Son since before the first morning. It did not appear out of nowhere. It spilled over. The cross was not the beginning of God's love for you. It was that ancient love finally becoming visible in a way you could see and touch and never doubt again. If you have spent your life feeling that love is something you have to win, something fragile that could be taken away the moment you disappoint someone, then hear this. The love at the center of the universe is not fragile. It is not new. It was there before the world, and it is strong enough to hold you now. And this is the love he invites you into. On that same night, Jesus prayed that the people the Father had given him would be with him and would see his glory. He did not want to keep that ancient love to himself. He wanted to open the circle and bring us in. The love that existed before creation is not a treasure locked away in heaven where you can only look at it from a distance. It is a home with an open door, and the eternal Son is the one standing in the doorway, calling you by name. There is a mistake people make about Jesus, and it is an easy one to fall into. They imagine him as the first and greatest thing God ever made. A creature above all other creatures, but still a creature with a starting point somewhere back in the far distance. The Bible will not let that idea stand. Jesus is not the top of the list of created things. He is the one who made the list. Everything that was ever created came through him. Listen to how Paul describes him. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. Colossians chapter 1, verse 16. All things, not most things, not everything except himself, the seas and the mountains, the stars you cannot count, the tiny hidden life inside a single drop of water, the angels in heaven, and the very kings and powers that would one day put him on trial. He made all of it. And Paul adds a phrase that we should never rush past. All things were created for him. The world was not only made by him, it was made for him. You were made for him. The colors of a sunset that no painter has ever quite captured came out of his mind. The sound of the sea, the shape of a mountain, the song of a bird you have heard 1,000 times without thinking about it, all of it was his idea first. He designed the human eye that lets you read these words. He set the sun at the exact distance that lets us live. Every good and beautiful thing you have ever loved is a small echo of the one who dreamed it up before there was anyone to enjoy it. And the same hands that hung the stars would one day be small enough to curl around a mother's finger. That is the mystery we are walking toward. Then Paul says something even more staggering. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Colossians chapter 1, verse 17. He is before all things, which means he came before them in time and stands above them in rank. And in him all things hold together, which means he is not a clockmaker who wound up the world and walked away. At this very second, the world is holding together because he is holding it. The same is true of your life. On the days when everything feels like it is falling apart, the deepest truth is that you are still held. The one who made you has not let go. Some people stumble here because Paul also calls Jesus the firstborn over all creation, and they hear the word firstborn and think it must mean he was the first thing God created. But that is not what the word meant to the people who first read it. In that world, to be the firstborn was to be the heir, the one who held the highest place and inherited everything the Father owned. It was a word about honor and rank, not about being born on a certain day. When Paul calls Jesus the firstborn over all creation, he is not putting Jesus inside the list of created things. He is placing him above all of it as the rightful heir of everything that exists. The very next breath makes it plain because Paul says that in him all things were created. You cannot be one of the created things and also be the one who created all of them. Jesus is the maker, not the made. The writer of Hebrews says it in one breathtaking line. He calls the Son the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3. Radiance is not separate from the light it comes from. You cannot pull the brightness away from the sun and set it in another room. The sun shines out from the Father the way light shines from the sun, always there, never apart, never made. That is who was there before the world, not a beginner, not a creature waiting to be born. The Maker himself, shining, holding everything, and one day choosing to enter the very world his own hands had formed. And because he was there before everything, he will still be there after everything. In the last book of the Bible, the risen Jesus says of himself, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." Revelation chapter 22, verse 13. Those were the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet, his way of saying that he holds both ends of the whole story in his hands. He was there before the first day dawned, and he will be standing when the last day closes. Everything that has a beginning and an end lives inside his life, and his life has neither. So there is no season of yours he is late for, and no ending you can reach that is beyond him. The one who opened the story is also the one waiting at the end of it. There is a moment long before Bethlehem where the eternal Son leaves a fingerprint on the pages of the Old Testament, and it happens in the middle of a desert in front of a burning bush. Moses was an old shepherd then, far from the palace where he had grown up, hiding from a past he could not fix. He was tending someone else's sheep in the wilderness when he saw a bush that was on fire but was not burning up. The flames rose, but the branches stayed green. And out of the fire, a voice called his name. Moses was told to take off his sandals because the ground he stood on was holy. Then God gave Moses a mission to set his people free. But Moses was afraid. He asked the most important question a person can ask. When they ask me, "Who sent me? What is your name?" And God answered with a name that has echoed for thousands of years. God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you." Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. I am, not I was, not I will be, I am. It is the name of the one who simply is, who depends on nothing, who never began and will never end. To the people of Israel, this name became so holy that in time they would not even say it out loud. When a reader came to it on the scroll, he would stop and say the word for Lord instead, so that the sacred name would never fall carelessly off his lips. That is how much weight this name carried. It was the name above every name, and it belonged to God alone. Now, travel forward across the centuries to a crowded temple courtyard. Jesus is standing among the religious leaders, and they are arguing with him. They cannot understand how this man, not yet 50 years old, could talk as if he had known Abraham, who had died almost 2,000 years before. And Jesus answers them with a sentence that changed the temperature of the room in an instant. Very truly, I tell you, Jesus answered, "Before Abraham was born, I am." John chapter 8, verse 58. He did not say, "Before Abraham I was alive." He said, "I am." He reached back and took the name from the burning bush and laid it on himself. The leaders understood him perfectly. That is why the moment turned so tense so quickly. They knew he was claiming to be the God who spoke to Moses out of the fire, the same voice, the same name, the same one who had no beginning. Think about what it cost him to say those words. He knew that claiming that name in that place could get him killed, and before long it would. He said it anyway because it was true. He was not borrowing a title that did not belong to him. He was quietly telling them what he had always known about himself. Before Abraham took his first step of faith, before Abraham was even born, Jesus already was. He had watched Abraham's whole life from the inside of eternity. He was there when the promise was first made. He was there through every generation that followed. Standing in that courtyard was the one who had been present at every moment of the story they thought they knew so well. And here is the tender part of it. The God whose name means I am, the God so holy that people were afraid to say his name out loud, chose to walk among ordinary people, to eat at their tables, to touch the sick, and to let children climb into his lap. The name that once thundered out of a burning bush now spoke gently to tired fishermen and forgiven sinners. Holiness came near without losing any of its greatness. That is who Jesus was before the world, and that is who he still is. The prophet Micah wrote about the coming of Jesus long before he was born, and he pointed to a small and forgotten town. He said, the ruler of Israel would come out of Bethlehem, a place too little to matter to anyone. But then Micah added a line that opens a window into eternity. He wrote that this ruler's origins are from of old, from ancient times. Micah chapter 5, verse 2. The child born in that small town was not new. His beginnings reached back before beginnings existed. And that raises the most humbling question in the whole story. If Jesus already had everything, all glory, all worship, all the fullness of God, then why would he ever come down into a world like ours? Paul answers that question with words that should bring every proud heart to its knees. He writes of Jesus, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. He made himself nothing. He did not lose his divine nature, but he laid aside the comfort and the glory of it. He set down the crown, not because it was taken from him, but because he chose to. Try to feel the distance he traveled. The one who was worshipped by countless angels became a baby who could not lift his own head. The one who never grew tired learned what it was to be exhausted. The one who fed every living thing had to be fed at his mother's side. The one who had spoken every language into being had to be taught how to say his first words. He did not arrive shining with power. He arrived small, poor and dependent, wrapped in cloth in a place where animals were kept. Why would he do this? Why would the maker of everything become the smallest and most fragile thing in his own creation? There is only one answer that fits, and it is not a reason of logic. It is a reason of love. He came down because we could not climb up. He entered our weakness because that is where we were trapped, and he was not willing to leave us there alone. And notice that he did not come down halfway. He did not stop at being a king in a palace or a great teacher admired by crowds. He went all the way down. He was born to poor parents in a borrowed space, laid in the place where animals fed. He grew up in a town so small that people joked nothing good could come from it. He worked with his hands. He knew hunger and thirst and sore feet at the end of a long day. The maker of the human body chose to live inside one with all its limits and aches so that there would be no part of your life he could not understand. When you are weak, he knows what weakness feels like from the inside. When you are worn down, he has been there. He did not study our suffering from a safe distance. He entered it. This is the heart of the whole gospel. We do not worship a good man who slowly became something like a god. We worship the eternal God who freely became a man. He did not rise to us from below. He came down to us from above. And the road he took, from the glory he had before the world all the way to a cross on a hill, is the longest and most loving journey ever made. Now we come to the part of this that reaches right into your own life, into the fear and the tiredness you may be carrying even as you listen. The Bible says something about Jesus that quietly includes you in a story older than the world. Peter writes that Christ was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 20. Before the creation of the world and for your sake. The plan to send the Son was not a rescue thrown together at the last minute when things went wrong. It was in the heart of God before there was a single human being to save. Before you drew your first breath, your rescue was already settled in eternity. Think about what that means for the weight you carry. You may feel like your life is small and unnoticed, one quiet person among billions. But the eternal Son of God did not overlook you when he made the world. He was not too busy with the stars to think about you. You were not lost in the crowd. The love that held the Father and the Son before creation is the same love that reached forward through all of time to find you exactly where you are. Maybe you are afraid of what is ahead. Maybe your body is not what it used to be, and each year feels more uncertain than the last. The one who was before all things is not aging with you. He is not worried about your future because he was already standing at the end of it before it began. You are walking toward a God who is already there. Maybe you are ashamed of something in your past, something you have never fully told anyone. Hear this clearly. The Jesus who knew you before the world began knew about that too. He saw all of it before he ever made you, and he still chose to come, still chose the manger, still chose the cross. His coming was not a mistake he would take back if he had known the real you. He always knew the real you, and he came anyway. Maybe you are simply tired. Not tired in your body only, but tired in the deep places, worn down by years of carrying things that never seem to get lighter. You wonder some mornings if you have the strength to keep going. If that is you, remember who has been holding you all along. The one who never grows weary, the one who was strong before the world had strength, has been carrying you through every season you thought you were surviving on your own. Your strength was never the thing keeping you here. His was, and he does not run out. And maybe, more than anything, you are simply lonely. You long to be known and to belong somewhere. This is the promise that meets you there. You are already known more deeply and more truly than any person on earth could ever know you, and you have been known that way from before the foundation of the world. You do not have to earn a place. There has always been a place for you in the heart of the one who made you. There is a strange freedom in learning this. So much of our striving comes from the fear that we must make ourselves worth loving before anyone will stay. We perform, we hide our flaws, we try to be impressive enough that no one will leave. But you cannot make the eternal Son love you more than he already does, and you cannot make him love you less. His love for you was full and finished before you ever did a single thing, right or wrong. That means you can stop performing for him. You can come to him with empty hands and a tired heart, exactly as you are tonight, and be received. The one who has held the universe together since before time began is more than able to hold you. So, who was Jesus before the world was ever created? He was the Word who had no beginning. He was the Son held in the Father's love before time. He was the Maker through whom everything came to be, and the one who holds it all together still. He was the great I Am who once spoke from the fire and later spoke from a manger. He was and is and always will be fully God. But he did not stay far away with all of that greatness. He came near. He became small enough to hold, poor enough to understand your struggles, and human enough to die in your place. He crossed the whole distance from eternity to a cross, and he did it because he loved you before you existed. If you have been carrying the fear that you are alone, that you are behind, that you are too broken or too old or too far gone, let this ancient truth quiet that fear tonight. You were loved before the world began. You are held right now by the same hands that made the stars, and you are welcomed, not because of anything you have done, but because of who he has always been. You do not have to have the right words. You do not have to fix yourself first. You can simply come, just as you are, to the one who has been waiting for you since before there was a world to wait in. Come in out of the cold. Sit down. You are known here. You are loved here. And the God who was there before the beginning will walk with you all the way to the end. And when the hard days come, and they will come, you can hold on to this. The one who loves you is not new to your life and easily discouraged by it. He is older than your troubles and stronger than your fears. He was not shaken when the world began, and he will not be shaken by whatever you are facing now. Nothing that happens to you today lands on a God who is caught off guard. He saw it before he made the world, and he is already there on the other side of it, waiting for you with the same love he has always had. You are walking through your life, held by hands that have never once let go of anything they made. So the next time you feel small or forgotten or unsure whether your life has counted for anything, remember who was there before the world began. Remember that he made it with you in mind. Remember that he stepped down into it to find you. And remember that the story of the eternal Son is not a story about a distant time long ago. It is the story of how deeply and how long you have been loved. May the eternal Son, who was there before the world was made, meet you today with the love that has no beginning and no end. If this video helped you grow deeper in God's Word, I want to personally invite you to be part of what we are building here. Every video on this channel takes many hours of study and careful research to make sure we bring you content that is faithful to Scripture and worthy of your time. If you would like to support this mission and help us keep making these videos, you can find a link in the description below to give a one-time gift or become a monthly supporter. Every gift, no matter the size, goes directly toward creating more content like this. And if you are not in a position to give right now, that is completely fine. The best thing you can do is subscribe, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and keep studying God's Word with us. Thank you for being here, and may God bless you richly.